Thank you, Toshio, and good morning, afternoon, and evening to everybody. So I am Hervé Claust. I am a research scientist at CNRS in France at the Laboratoire of Oceanography de Villefranche, which is a marine station of Sorbonne University. I am a biogeochemical oceanographer, mostly dedicated to ocean observation. And since mostly 15 years, I have been deeply involved in robotic technology development and the science application of it, starting with gliders and moving to BGC Argo floats. And in parallel, I have contributed with many others to try to set up a BGC Argo community, and which ended up 5 years ago with the launch of the BGC Argo program and then mission that I'm co-sharing now with Ken Johnson. So the outline of my presentation, I will quickly rely on the presentation of Toshio with more specific emphasis on BGC Argo. And then after, I will have a scientific part dedicated to mostly to BGC Argo and ecosystem. And I will illustrate with two kind of example dedicated to the ophotic layers where phytoplankton is doing photosynthesis, and the so-called twilight zone, which make the link between the upper layer and the deep layers through the biological carbon pump. I will illustrate some of my thought with respect to some possible perspective. And in this presentation, I will always try, whenever possible, to link BGC Argo with other components of the observation system, likely satellite, ocean color, but also in situ observations. And also, I will emphasize some aspect of the modeling and the support by BGC Argo to the modeling community, either biogeochemical, ecosystem, or biooptical modeling. And I will illustrate the potential of artificial intelligence approach, which is going to penetrate, I would say, the BGC Argo community. So rapidly, the history of BGC Argo can be set up in 3 main phases, I will say. So it was the time starting in 2008, what I call the so-called preparatory phase, where we had several working groups, and we developed reports, community papers, and in some way it ends up at Ocean Ops 9 in Venezia, where there were 2 position papers, one on oxygen on Argo float and the other biooptical sensor on Argo floats. And then we have interacted, Ken and myself, with the Argo steering team, and we have begun to exchange. We have set up a so-called BGC Argo task team that at some point has the duty to develop the science and the implementation plans. This was developed through meetings that we organized in Villefranche in 2016, and we dedicated this time to prepare the science and implementation plan. And I would say now that is the vision that Toshio was just presenting before. BGC Argo is a mission fully integrate as part of the One Argo vision through the so-called global, full depth, and multidisciplinary array vision. And this was presented at Ocean Ops 19 in a position paper that you can access on. So the biogeochemical science and implementation plan define certain targets. I will say that there are 5 research topics: the biological carbon pump, the phytoplankton communities, oxygen minimum zone and the relation to nitrate cycling, carbon uptake and acidification. In gold is what is mainly the topic of my presentation, when in light gray is what Ken will address later on. And with respect to management topics, we have living marine resources and carbon budget. At the time of the development of the implementation plan, we had identified 6 core variables whose measurements were, I would say, ready and mature and could be implemented, the sensor, on operational fit for long-term observation. Namely, this variable were chlorophyll A, suspended particles, downwelling irradiance, oxygen, nitrate, and pH. And the objective, it's one of the reasons we are here together today is to reach as soon as possible a target of 1,000 floats, operational floats. And for this, we have 4 main types of BGC Argo floats. 3 are developed in the US and 1 in France. So what is the status of the BGC Argo fleet now, and what are the expectations, and in which international and collaborative context this will be developed? So presently we have 350 floats at sea with a various combination of sensors. This means it's not all floats that carry 6 sensors. I will say that most of the floats doesn't carry 6 sensors, and we have even floats that carry only oxygen measurements. Over the next 5 years, we begin to have more and more international commitments with funded floats for developing the sustained array. It starts with the US contributions that Ken will describe in his talk. And I've tried to make an estimation of the commitments and firm commitments of other countries, and basically it's around 250 floats. This means that for a full 1,000 float operational array and replacing floats a quarter every year, we still need for the next 5 years 400 floats. At the same time, to foster collaboration, coordination within the various countries of Argo, basically we have 15 countries contributing to Argo presently, and to possible develop interaction not only with within Argo, that is easy, but with other components of the observing system. IOC UNESCO project office is on the move, and the position should be soon be available in France. Just before starting, I would just would like to review what were our observational data source before the BGC Argo era. I will say that for ecosystem part, a very important source were satellite observation. While beside chlorophyll A, we had the possibility to have at a synoptic scale various proxy of ecosystem from particulate organic carbon to community composition. But the one, I will say, drawback of ocean color and the satellite is that the satellite just see the upper layer, actually 1/5 of the euphotic zone. So this had to be complemented with in situ data over the vertical, and we have for this many data acquired by ship over the last, I would say, 30, 40, 50 years. And some of this data have been compiled into climatology. For example, we have a high quality measurement data set like GLODAP V2. But we know that this in situ data present large observational gaps, especially for high latitude during winter time. And they are not resolving well regional, seasonal, and even mesoscales. From the combination of both satellite and in situ data, we will be able to derive a variety of proxy through statistical relationship. And on the left side, I illustrate the depths of the deep chlorophyll maxima, actually, which is the key properties of ecosystem in the surface ocean, but that are not detected by satellite. And then come the BGC Argo, and here you have actually the 85,000 BGC Argo chlorophyll A profiles that we have in our dataset, interoperable data. And I will use this example to showcase how we can now have better information with respect to the deep chlorophyll maximum. So this is a recent study that was conducted by Cornec and published in a Biogeochemical Cycle, where the compilation of all BGC Argo data with respect to the DCM allow to develop some kind of typology with respect to occurrence. So we showcase that the DCM are highly present in the intertropical zone and are yearly permanent. In the temperate domain in the Arctic, they are only permanent in summer around the solstice, while in the subpolar domain, they are mostly ephemeral, so it's very not permanent structure, and in any case dedicated in summer. With respect to depth and intensity, we see here along latitudinal gradients that in subtropical gyre we have the deepest DCM, sometimes close to 200 meters, and these DCM are with very low chlorophyll content. While in sub-equatorial waters, we have shallower DCM with higher concentration in chlorophyll. And using this database serves as feeding, I will say, some biooptical models of primary production. And we were able to show that primary production below the layer seen by the satellite, so below 10% of the surface light, the primary production is higher than expected, especially in the equatorial band. So this means that we need to readdress possibly the role of DCM in global carbon budget. And for this, and before being able to very deeply address this carbon budget, we need to be able to reconstruct in some way and to have an estimation of the deep chlorophyll maximum in whatever situation in the open ocean. And here come possibly the use of artificial intelligence, because now we have many data, and this will not stop. Actually, it will grow. We expect it will grow in the future. We are able now to, for example, here on the left panel, to predict a vertical profile of chlorophyll A just with remote sensing observation of ocean color and altimetry, together of vertical profiles of physical properties, namely temperature and salinity. And here you have a neural network that was developed using BGC Argo for training that reconstruct here the predicted time series in the Med Sea as compared to the truly measured time series by the BGC Argo float. Application of neural networks only can be used for variables that are not measured by BGC Argo. And here is another example of neural network that this time were trained on the global V2 dataset, and using vertical profile of pressure, temperature, salinity, and oxygen that can be considered as the predictors, we can recompute, predict the nutrient and the carbonate variable over the vertical dimension. And here is the validation of such kind of approach on a totally independent dataset for the HOT, Hawaii Oceanic Time Series Station, where we compare measurements of pH and PO and phosphate to the predicted measurements of the same quantities, pH and phosphate. And you can see that the trends are well reproduced. Also, the mesoscale signature. Also, you can see here the progressive acidification signal that is well reproduced. And just to showcase that such method can help to fill the gaps. For example, here measurements of oxygen and pH were not, pH at least were not taken at that time. Then after, from such approach, we can move from the R&D work to more operational products. And here is an application of the machine learning methods that I presented just before, that end up as products that are available to the communities. For example, here through the Copernicus Marine Service. And here we have the possibility to get 3D particulate organic carbon and chlorophyll A concentration over a weekly time series over a 20-year periods that cover both the POC and the chlorophyll A. And another product that is regularly updated according to the qualification in daily mode of oxygen data is the nutrient profile vertical distribution. This relies only on BGC Argo measurements with at least good oxygen measurements, and we can have nitrate, phosphate, silicate available for the community. Another application here is what I call that BGC Argo is able to help us to develop biogeography, and this is data courtesy of Nicolas Bock. And basically, I will summarize what has been done here. We have sufficient data to clusterize now a time series of chlorophyll A and backscattering. At least here in this example, there are 400 time series of BGC Argo float at the aquarium so far. And from this, we can, here we have a clustering of according to 6 areas. And you can see the average content of chlorophyll A. This is a relative scale to highlight the patterns. And we have at least here 6 main bioregions: the equatorial waters, the Arabian Sea, where you can see the monsoon effect, the seasonal deep chlorophyll maximum, the permanent deep chlorophyll maximum, low chlorophyll blooms, and high chlorophyll blooms. And here there are 2 drivers of the phytoplankton dynamics: the microcline depth and the 0.1% isolum. And here you have the distribution, coherent distribution, latitudinal distribution of these various data. So the potential application, I think, are first for better addressing and the design of observation and the location of observation program in some way, and also the initialization and the validation of biogeochemical model at regional scales. Now I'll move deeper below the euphotic zone. So the target here is the twilight zone. So actually between 100 meter and 1,000 meter, and it is the way, the route by which the carbon that has been photosynthesized from CO2 at the surface is transferred down to deeper layer, and where a lot of transformation may attenuate this downwards carbon flux. So there is a new paradigm that was developed by Boyd et al. In 2019, that from concepts where only the gravitational pump, this means that the sinking of phytoplankton aggregates and fecal pellets down to the deep layers. We have now a biological mediated contribution through migration of zooplankton, and physically mediated contribution through the so-called mixed layer pump and eddy subduction pump. So it's very important to address the functioning and the interplay of all these pumps, not only to address the fate of CO2 penetrating at the ocean surface, but also to establish the mechanistic links between the pump and their physical chemical drivers, namely temperature, oxygen, and pH, for example. Many of these pumps, I have to say, begin to be addressed using BGC Argo float. For example, here the mixed layer pump, here the eddy eddy subduction pump, and here, for example, the migration by zooplankton organisms. To make a little bit perspective, here I show you 2 examples. The first one is the possibility to replace some of the radiometers that we have on the floats that have 4 wavelengths by an hyperspectral radiometer. What could be the advantage of using such kind of instrument? But better spectral resolution would allow to possibly better deconvolute, decipher the phytoplankton communities through their pigment contents, and also to better address the component, the detrital component, and the so-called color dissolved organic matter. Definitively, it would support calibration validation operation for ocean color satellite, especially we say for the PACE mission, knowing that upward radiance measurement is now possible. And also radiometry is primary input for a couple bioptical biogeochemical model like the one that developed by Dubkevich and Terzik recently. Another type of sensors that could be useful for ecosystem approach and even for fisheries is in situ camera that allow to quantify large particle and zooplankton community with respect to particle size from 100 micron to 2 millimeter size distribution. It allows to characterize the fecal pellets and the phytoplankton aggregates. And the particle size distribution is a K property for characterize the gravitational pull through the sinking speed of large particle, and evidently the consequence on the biological carbon pump and the carbon sequestration. And similarly, the zooplankton can be quantified and identified by such new sensor that allow to use artificial intelligence to identify zooplankton on board. And the potential application are again for the biological carbon pump and the carbon sequestration, but also for all the aspects with respect to ecosystem and fishery biogeochemical modeling, where in general, this model suffer evidently of the lack of data for initialization and validation. So in summary, I would say that BGC Argo is on track for filling our systematic observational gaps. We definitively contribute to fill these gaps. The 5 science with BGC Argo topics, and I'm sure that Ken after will illustrate other examples of the science topic, have begun to be addressed through regional pilot project. And possibly new topics could emerge. This is not fixed definitively. For sure, we need to reach the 1,000 float steady state as soon as possible. And I hope I have convinced you that BGC Argo has potential synergy with other in situ components of the global observation system, especially with SHIP. And I think that also the illustration that artificial intelligence can link SHIP-based measurements with BGC Argo 1 or also with remote sensing, see the great potential that we have to develop synergy between various community and various observing components. For the ocean color, for sure, the calibration validation interest and extension of the surface signal to develop 3D or 4D view of the biological ocean. I will say that the interest for the modeling community is growing. Definitely, we see more and more papers using BGC Argo data, and we have to reinforce the communication and discussion between the observing and modeling community. And finally, as an observer, I will say that I feel that BGC Argo is a very nice, I will say, array, not only to make observation with respect to expectation, but also to potentially explore and potentially make discovery. Thank you very much.